I want to talk to you about the meaning of words. I get very discouraged when I see people criticizing. Why do you want to teach on these things? Just whatever. Just stay dumb like the rest of the people. Because that's basically what it boils down to. It's easier for me to understand certain concepts about the English language, seeing, number one, that I love language, number two, that I understand in tracing the history of the development of the English language. You cannot escape the roots from which we get the bulk of our words in the English language, and you cannot escape the fact that there is a shift after the last great development in the English language. There is a shift in the way words are used. Culturally, as we progress, if you want to call it that, words change. I'll give you a perfect case in point. This is the time of year where every person on TV will be saying, send a donation. How many of you heard that? Donation. Donation. It's a dirty word. I've got notes in my Oxford Dictionary of English Etymology. I've also got notes in here that are not part of the dictionary. But donation. So first, from the word donate, to make a gift of, back formation of donation, noun of action, from the French donner, from the French donum, gift, from tracing that word from the words do or de. In fact, let me turn it this way because I've got other notes. Donation from the early 15th century, from donation, from donationem, from donatio, from doner, to give, donum, gift, Proto-Indo-European donum, gift, Sanskrit danam, offering, present, from dani, tribute, from duonis, gift, Old Iranian, dan, gift, endowment, talent, from the base of do, do, or de, de, to give. Now, why is that a problem? Because most people use the word donation out of context. There's nothing wrong with understanding, tracing the words. There's something terribly wrong when you begin to trace the words. Let me go to the next word because I've labeled these. The next one in line from donation, believe it or not, would be to condone. How we got there, I don't know. Condone. Are you interested in hearing this? Because I'm pretty fascinated. I was talking with somebody last week, and we were discussing people using the word donation. And I said, that word has to come from the Latin donare. From the roots, by the way, if you trace them right back to the Greek, from the roots of do and de in the Greek, which they do. Big deal. Well, you'll see what the deal is. Okay, to condone then makes sense. Let me read this one first. From 1857, the word in our English language. From condonare in the Latin, to give up or to remit. From the com intensive prefix and donare. So intensively, turn back this way. I've got all kinds of notes in here. To overlook and forgive an offense. The Latin word without reference to use, Latin condonare, to deliver up, to surrender, to refrain from punishment or punishing as favor. From com, which is from con, altogether, plus donare, to give altogether. It also says see donation and pardon. Okay. Well, there are other words that come up here. I'm going to go to the word pittance. Pittance, early 13th century, pious donation to a religious house or order to provide extra food. From French, Pittance, Portion of food allowed a monk or poor person by pious bequest, literally from pity, piety, meaning small amount or portion. Again, pittance, donation, small allowance, sparing allowance. And let's go to the root word of that, which is pity. Clemency, mercy, compassion. Latter, Latin pietas, dutifulness, gratitude, acquired from the sense of compassion or kindness. Old French, pité and piété, had both senses and were subsequently differentiated and thus reflected in the English parallel pity, pitiable, pitiful, pitiless, etc. Let's go to another word. Do all roads lead to the same thing? No. See, people use words. And they use words without understanding their meaning. We've talked about the reportive meaning of words. If you ask somebody, if we polled this whole room here and said, what does this word mean? As the group decides what this word means, that becomes the reportive meaning. As these words are used so easily by everybody, let's go back to the word pardon. First to my notes, late 13th century. I love this. Papal indulgence. From the Old French pardonner, to grant or forgive. From perdonner, to give wholeheartedly, to remit. From the Latin per, through, thoroughly, or with, and doner, to give or to present. Meaning passing over an offense without punishment is from the 1300s. So it changes as it travels into the English language. The dictionary reads pardon, which is remission of punishment for an offense. And why am I reading this to you? Because at the root of it, if you see the root of it, is with giving. Per doner, with giving. Well, that brings me to gift. I like this, see? Because most people use words and they don't even take the time to look at where these things emanate from. We use them, and gift, somewhere in here is a gift. I bet you I could make some evangelists blush by telling them what the origin of love gift is. Because this is, I consider this family time, I'm going to wait for another time. That surely will get most evangelists to turn in, by the way. They'll be glued to their television. Gift. From the 1100s, from Old Norse, gift, from Proto-Germanic, gifits, and we watched the progression, but in Germanic it also had dowry, gahab, to give or receive, which you trace the other words down to other words that keep going. We can keep going, but let's go from gift to give because that's the root. From gift to give. Give. Give, gave, given, to hand over. See, this really, if you're even remotely on page with me, you're going to say, how can somebody talk to you about giving and by the same mouthful say give and receive belong in the same mouthful when every single true definition of the words that I've been reading to you have to do with a complete handing over in some respect or another. See, because people don't study their own language, they're only left with 50% of the meaning. All right, so this word develops, and basically it comes back to a root, and I'm going to trace that root to another root. I like this. Charisma. These are all words that you know as a congregation. Charisma. In this definition, free gift of God's grace. From the Greek charisma, charisestai, to show favor. Charis, favor, grace, also anglicized charism or charism. Directly beneath this word is the word charity. And this is why when you read the King James, you'll find in many places they use the word charity in place of what the Greek word agape appears to be. Because here, in its oldest definition, charity in the English language was Christian love. Give me some charity. Benevolence, charitableness, alms. The earliest forms were carité, charité in the French, caridad, carita. And now you go down to the words like caros, dear. Now they mentioned alms in here. We know the definition of that. Alms. Charitable gift, we're back to square one. When alms, reduced to alms, it had an E, now it's A-L-M-S. Going through all the languages, of course, coming from the Greek, iliomásone, compassionateness, compassion from ilios, mercy. In the Old English, the origin or the ending N was treated as inflectional and disappeared from the word, hence alms. Now I could take you to, there are so many meanings to trace here, but I could take you to the same source over and over again, and there is no sense of reciprocity. It's our language that deceives us. And the only place where we get this concept of reciprocity is by our standard of how we seek to please ourselves and justify what we want to have because we want it. Go back to the years of teaching, of listening to Dr. Scott and that fabulous flathead he used to show on the board. Just a package of wants, I want. Now, I share these words with you because when people talk about giving in the Bible, and certainly by New Testament standards, I have a challenge. My challenge is the Old Testament confirms and is made fully clear in the New Testament. I challenge someone to tell me that anywhere where Jesus has spoken about the woman who cast her all that she had, he says, she has put all that she had into the treasury. And we know nothing about this woman. We don't know her name. We don't know how she survived. I can find abundant of these references. And I take notice that Jesus took note of these people. He didn't take note of the Pharisees in the same frame of reference. He said, watch and be careful that you don't do what you do to be seen of men, to make a spectacle of yourself, which, by the way, he included giving. And he memorializes some of the most nameless, unknown people for their giving. Sorry, that's Bible. It's very difficult for some people to really get to the point. It's what I said this morning, and it bears repeating. The gospel message is either going to do one of two things. You are going to have the response like the woman. The gospel message is going to bring a response like Nicodemus. He sat and asked Jesus, how can a man be born again? And Jesus begins to tell him how a man is born again from above, proceeds to tell him. I love the people that quote John 3:16, but forget about those 15 other verses that are paramount to explain how a man can be born again. And there's no way that a man or woman can crawl back in the womb, although some try and spend their lifetime doing it. Never mind. You'll find that same Nicodemus is the man bringing the bag of myrrh and aloe to bury Jesus. There's someone who's been named. That's the stuff that gets my attention. Oh, there are other named people. They're not present in the earlier gospel portion, but they appear like Joseph of Arimathea. I've mentioned this before. The gospel will either bring you to the recognition you are not your own and you're bought with a price, or it will just make you search for a gospel which is not another gospel, to please your ears and to massage your innermost being, because what you truly know in your heart of hearts to be true, it's the parable of the sower. And the Word of God is not changed. So I take the liberty to read these to you because for those of us who want to know why when some people say, send your donation. If you trace back love gift, it's actually something that goes back to temple practice. I'll leave that to your imaginations. And let me add to that, because in the transcending of that word into our English language, as you know, there are 4 words. Oh, you're going to love this, folks. There are 4 words in the Greek representing the word, our English word for love. You know them off by heart, I'm sure. But there's eros, phileo, agape, and stergine. Those 4 words represent one English word, love. Now, let's analyze that, because it came from a cultic practice. So, and we, in the Christian frame, we practice only one of 2 things. We practice things in agape, which is uncalculated, unconditional giving of oneself, or we have brotherly love, phileo. We love the brothers. Some of us love them more than others. We're not practicing eros the last time I checked. And stergane is for parents to their children or children to their parents. So I'm going to let you try and figure out on your own that if something is, by definition, being conveyed in the New Testament frame of reference as a gift that is of pure love, then it is a gift that does not seek reciprocity. Think about that. Think about that. And while we're doing that thinking, I want you to get on the telephone. Get busy.
To this house, magnify the Lord, lift up holy hands, our hearts in one accord, worship and bow down before Him.